Okay, so Monoprice Retros versus the Philips SHP9500s. Why am I making this video? Well, it's simple. They're both budget. They're both very popular headphones within the audiophile community. And they could both serve to be, a budget option for you to have as a more, disposable headphone in some sort of setup, right? This isn't really going to be a review per se. This is just going to be a quick discussion on which I think might be the better choice for some people and why, right? So these are two different to compare, right? They fall under two different categories. I prefer the SHP 9500s, hands down. Now, let me tell you why. First and foremost, they're open back. Open back headphones generally sound better than closed backs, in my opinion. And they don't, because they're open, they don't have sound resonating inside and creating more distortion than is necessary. Well, none is necessary, but you understand what I mean. Like the technical capabilities and limitations of a headphone are the only things that should really cause distortion. Anything else is just unexcusable. Now then, they're open back. They are a little more comfortable. They can be run stock. You don't need anything else. You can just buy them, and that's it. You just buy them and you use them with the cable. If anything, you can buy yourself a shorter cable with a inline mic and remote and volume control if you're planning on using these portably, which I strongly do not recommend. But anyway, these are two very different headphones to compare, right? So open, closed, very airy, not very airy. Neutral with a slight emphasis on treble. V-shaped with the biggest emphasis in bass. That's a big difference between the two. Bass here is, well, it's not dead, but it's certainly bass light, or on the lighter end of the spectrum, where, well, it has a bit of a mid-bass hump, just to give that a little extra zing in the bass. But because it's an open back dynamic, it's very rolled off after that mid-bass section. These, on the other hand, are just bass for days. I mean, you just can't go without bass for these, which can be a pro or a con, depending on what your music tastes are. Me personally, it varies, You're shuffling your playlist and then a hip-hop song comes on and you're like, oh yeah, man, this is great. And then the next one's, Vivaldi, and you're just like, ooh, no, please stop, An advantage the SHP9500 has over the Retros is that they have a removable cable, and it's 3.5 millimeter, which means that you can plug in pretty much any cable by any manufacturer because it's the most common form of audio cable that there is. 3.5 to 3.5 or 3.5 to 4th inch, with an adapter or something like that. Totally doable. Monoprice Retros, on the other hand, you're stuck with this long cable, which, well, thankfully has a 4th inch adapter. It's still a pretty long cable. It's long, which means you cannot take these for, walking outside. You can't use these portably whatsoever. You have to be sitting down in a desktop setup to use these. Now, another advantage of the SHP9500s is that you don't really require an amp for them. You pretty much don't. They're 32 ohms. They're pretty sensitive, so they don't require a whole lot of power to run off. And the gains from using these on an amp are, they're minimal. They're still there. So I still recommend an amp, especially for having that, how do you say that? That analog volume control, which is really nice. And the fact that you don't have to use a Windows sound card, motherboard sound card, to bring out sound, right? Whereas these, on the other hand, they sound decent without, an amp. But I do recommend an amp anyway, just because they do have quite an improvement on them with an amp. Even if it's a budget DAC amp, it's still better than running them off of your motherboard or a smartphone. So I do recommend that. Which of these two do I prefer? I already said SHP9500s. Why? Well, I already said open back I prefer over closed back. Wire, removable. You can use them in many different ways, except for outside because everybody can hear them because they're super open. They sound better. They just do. Like, although I compared the sound signatures, now speaking about sound quality, for sure these have better sound quality than these. Miles ahead? I don't think so. I think like justifiable for the price, right? But they definitely sound better. And let's say for $20 more than this, right? Or if you choose to forego an amp to get like these without an amp versus these with an amp, then these come out to be the cheaper alternative right now, because currently on Newegg and even on Amazon, you can find them for anywhere between $68 to $80 because who knows where somebody pulled, 100,000 9500s out of their ass that just didn't exist anymore. And, well, here they are. Here they are. They're back in stock again. Not the 9500S, because 9500s are better than the S, just because they have better packaging and stuff. But, yeah, that was just a quick discussion. Just wanted to say why I prefer which headphone over the other. But, then again, if you're like in a desktop setup or something, meaning in an office or something where you need the isolation and you still want it to be budget, then definitely I can see these being a better pick for you, especially if you don't need the microphone at work. I can definitely see these being the better pick. So I'll just leave it at that. It was just a quick one and my opinion.